It's coming.
Paul George has beat the buzzer a few times. Oh, he does it again.
Luka fights Porzingis, the cut of the flush.
Oh, DeMar DeRozan. We got to make it harder for them down there.
Sometimes you dribble the ball, sometimes he dribbles you.
I don't have a hobby. I just play basketball. That's all I do, so I got to find a hobby. So I decided to take some pictures after the game.
Woo! I don't need any afternoon coffee after that. That was awesome. Welcome to The Jump. I am Rachel Nichols alongside NBA champion Matt Barnes and New York Times bestselling author Brian Windhorst. We have a jam-packed show for you guys today. First round of All-Star voting just dropped. We will show you the results shortly. Also coming up, Bulls star Zach LaVine joins The Jump to discuss being the face of the franchise, and also his name being rumored on the trading block as he hopes to get an All-Star invite. Plus, we're going to talk about a new book from Lakers vet Jared Dudley, adding even more fuel to their rivalry with the Clippers. Should the Lake Show be more or less worried about the Clippers this season than they were last season? Stick around for that discussion. First, though, you could be forgiven if when looking over scores from last night, you saw that the Bucks blew out the Pacers by 20 and thought, same old, same old. After all, Milwaukee has spent much of the past couple regular seasons blowing teams out. And then once the Bucks get to the playoffs, not great, Bob. Once benches get shorter, teams face each other over and over, opponents have figured out how to exploit Milwaukee's predictability, its rigidity, these small but stubborn holes in Giannis's game. It's all gotten to the point that really, no matter what the Bucks achieved this regular season, it was going to strike fear in the hearts of exactly no one, which in turn led to an interesting question for the Milwaukee Brain Trust. Do you spend these 72 games trying to win each one above all else, chase the best record in the league again and the top seed that goes with it? Or this time around, do you spend the regular season instead experimenting, practicing, expanding, even if sometimes it gets ugly? Well, we're nearly a third of the way through, and it's been clear the Bucks have picked the latter path. They've swapped out personnel. They've toyed with different ways to use Giannis, leaning into him as a screener and a passer. They've switched on defense. No, really, we have film of it. And sometimes it has been, in fact, ugly. Early in the season, the Bucks got clocked by the Knicks. They lost to the Heat without Jimmy Butler. Giannis has struggled at the free throw line, too. I mean, really struggled with the worst percentages of his career. But that is the thing about change. It is not supposed to be easy or pretty. And when you finally start to see all the little experiments paying off, it is all the more satisfying, which is why last night's win felt like so much fun to Milwaukee. Giannis in particular was a stud, and it wasn't because he dropped 40, because he didn't. Instead, Giannis had just 21 points, but they came with razor efficiency as he went 7 for 8 from the field and 7 for 8 from the line. He also had 14 rebounds, 10 assists that weren't all just dishes from the paint out to the three-point line, but real playmaking in the half court. Check out this early in the second half. Giannis down low, could have tried to force his way through even after Miles Turner, who leads the league in shot blocking, by the way, came over to help. Instead, though, you see that he found a cutting Brook Lopez streaking to the basket for 2 points. Here was Giannis afterward, describing his mindset.
It's a new thing. Probably last year and the year before and the year before that, go to the game, I'm just too stubborn, to not be at my best every single night, and I try to go through guys, 3 guys are guarding me. I still try to get in the paint, I know all that. And I think this is just a step forward.
This isn't the way Giannis has often played previously, but it is likely the way he needs to at least be able to play more often for the Bucks to be the kind of multi-dimensional threat that goes far in the postseason. And Giannis's willingness to embrace that change is impressive. For someone who is famously competitive, it can be hard to give up even an inch in the short term for the possibility of a mile in the long term. But he has buckled down and done it. And last night he got to enjoy a little bit of the payoff as the Bucks went up by as many as 40, yes, 40 in the second half, Once Bud pulled him for the night, Giannis grabbed one of the team photographer's cameras and started using it, which, I mean, if you're the Pacers, you probably feel some sort of way about that. But the Bucks players loved it. The team released some of the pictures afterward, and you know what? These are actually pretty great. Later, Giannis joked he wanted to take some pictures that finally made his brother Thanasis look good. But honestly, it was the bigger picture that he and his team spent last night chasing. Yeah, the Bucks scored another blowout last night, but it was not in the same old way. And maybe that is going to really matter down the road when it counts. So, Matt, where do you see the Bucks in this new look Eastern Conference, especially if they are willing to make some of these changes on both sides of the ball?
I see Milwaukee as the third or fourth best team in the East. Records aside, I feel like the Nets are going to probably win the East. I like the Sixers in Boston. And Milwaukee is notorious for being great in the regular season, and then they have their playoff problems. If this could be a three-headed monster between Holiday, Middleton, and Giannis, all around 20-plus points a game in the playoffs, I think that may be a recipe for success. But outside of that, you know, he's the two-time MVP. And like you said, in playoff time, you have enough time to study, make adjustments, and teams have found holes and ways to stop him on the offensive end that have had them early exits the last few seasons.
You know, and this is so interesting that Matt describes it this way, Rachel, because over the last 3 years, as I've sought opinions on the Bucks, their numbers have always been fantastic, and the players have not been afraid of them. And here's Matt Barnes, a player, saying, yeah, they look good, but I'm not afraid of them. And that's not going to change until Giannis goes and grabs the series that maybe they shouldn't have and pulls it away, like we've seen the greats do over the years. And that's really what it's going to come down to. You know, I'm going to give the Bucks a lot of latitude here. You made a bunch of great points talking about how they're making experimental changes. They also revamped their entire bench and made a huge change to their starting lineup in trading for Jrue Holiday. And because of that, I'm not really going to seriously evaluate them and their record until we get into the latter stages of the season. I will say that some of their bench moves that I wasn't really excited about have looked okay, including Bobby Portis, who's been playing great recently.
So what do you think, Brian, is the biggest question mark left for the Bucks this year, either from the front office or the coaching staff in terms of tinkering before the trade deadline?
Well, I'm always thinking about what do you do when you need a couple of baskets in the last 5 minutes of the game. And so right now the Bucks have the number 3 offense in the league. They're actually far back in the defensive standings. They're usually at the top. They're sort of in the middle of the pack in defense. So you say, wow, number 3 offense in the league, that's beastie. That's going to really get it done. And then you pull up the clutch stats, which is, you know, when you see and identify what a team can do in a tight playoff game, and they slide all the way to 16th. And that's what I worry about. And maybe Jrue Holiday, who was great in the playoffs a couple years ago with the Pelicans, maybe he's a difference maker there. You know, but they're 1-3 in games decided by 5 points or less. Small sample size, but that's what's going to be the difference for this team, and that's where we're going to eventually figure out who they are.
Yeah, that's my question, too, is who do they go to down the stretch in a playoff game, last 2 minutes when they need a bucket? It hasn't been able to be Giannis yet. Can it be Holiday? It's been Middleton at some point. But they need to have that figure identified. And to me, until we get to the playoffs with this team and see if Holiday can be that or Middleton can be that or if Giannis is going to be that, people don't fear the deer.
Yeah, well, right now they are number 2 in the Eastern Conference standings. But as Matt points out, the regular season standings have not meant much or as much for this team in recent years, especially in the bubble. So we will see what they do with this. All right, coming up on this show, should the Lakers be more or less worried about the Clippers after things went down last season for both teams? What about this season? More or less worried? Stick around to find out what Matt and Brian think. First, though, time for